Welcome to the Beyond the Sound podcast. Here at Beyond the Sound, we explore and discuss music and arts happenings in the Salvation Army Northwest Division, serving Washington State, Northern Idaho, and Western Montana. I am your host, John Opina, Divisional Music and Gospel Arts Director, and I am joined by my co-host,
Heath Almanza, Assistant Director for the Division.
And this is episode 10, and we're actually recording this live from Camp Arnold. We are in the middle, or near the tail end, actually, of Music and Worship Arts Camp. And we decided to have a little sit down with one of our guests, and I will let him introduce himself.
Hey, well, I'm Nathan Miller. I'm a professor of musicology and director of the orchestra at Asbury University in Wilmore, Kentucky. I've been involved in Salvation Army music my whole life, and so love coming up to music camps. I'm glad to be out here in Camp Arnold in the Pacific Northwest in the beautiful state of Washington.
All right, Dr. Nathan. Can I just call you Nathan?
Just call me Nathan. I like Nathan.
And so we usually start off the podcast with a top three of some sort. Let's do like a double whammy. We'll do a double whammy this time. We'll start off with food.
Okay.
So let's go with our top three meals of this camp so far.
Top three meals of the camp so far. Number one, I think would probably have to be the breakfast parfait. That's pretty big. I enjoyed that one. Number two, let's go. The chicken sandwich was pretty solid. I like that.
That wasn't bad.
I get around to a lot of music camps, and a shout out to the camp staff for fresh produce and fixings for burgers and such. That was really good. Let's go. So we had that. And then this is going to be a little bit off the beaten path. It's not a meal, but they've got some bagels for the staff.
Yep.
That are, I don't know where they're from. They've got to be local because there's no marketing on the
I know
bag.
exactly where they're from.
But they are like jalapeno. I've never had a jalapeno bagel, but the flavor is perfect. And like with the cream cheese, it's kind of like a jalapeno popper with gluten. And I'm on board. So that's really good.
It's a shame we can't take him to Whidbey Bagel.
Yes. Well, I mean,
You can.
but that's going to be a long trip. Was it my turn for the top three?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Come on, parfait.
Happy Bento. Number one.
That doesn't count.
It counts. I had it while
It's not a meal at camp.
I had it at camp.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
I had it while here.
Okay.
Fine. The chicken patty sandwich was pretty good.
Yeah, that
was good. I think they
have really good strawberries here this week.
Yeah, portion size is an issue, but
Yeah.
they are very good.
I don't remember what meal it was, but when they first gave out watermelon slices,
Got two of those too.
that was some good watermelon. Which wasn't the meal itself. But I think the barbecue chicken last night was not bad.
Yeah.
Portion size could have been a little bigger. The cornbread was a little dry, but it hit the spot.
Yeah.
And I guess those, turkey cheese wraps we had.
Oh, yeah,
those
yesterday.
were solid. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were really
Yeah,
good.
those weren't bad. I kind of needed like 4, but
I would just shout out the Camp Arnold kitchen staff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
high quality food. I've been well treated.
Yeah, they do some good work there, especially considering, I think they're short on staff this year, right?
I have no idea.
Addition by subtraction, I'm guessing, because they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second the turkey wraps or whatever they were, some kind of wrap.
Yeah.
Yesterday. The Masubis last night were pretty good.
Again, you guys, you did not clarify. You made it sound like it was camp
Meals.
meals provided by the
Yeah.
dining
Meals
hall.
on camp, food on camp. No. So turkey wraps. The barbecue chicken yesterday wasn't bad. I would have preferred some rice rather than beans, which I have my cooked pot in the bathroom.
In the bathroom?
That's the only place I can do it, dude.
Best way to cook rice.
That's true.
Let's see. And the third one, other than the bagels, which aren't necessarily served at breakfast.
Still provided by the dining hall.
Yeah. I like go bagels. 'Cause they're-
I feel like there's a meal we're missing that was really good.
One of the breakfasts, I think, were pretty good. I can't remember, though. I mean, pancakes today.
The pancakes were pretty good.
What else do we have? I just had bagels mostly.
Oh, yeah. I think it was yesterday they had those little triangle hash browns.
Yeah.
And the
They're
sausage
solid,
links.
yeah.
And I put them in a bagel. That was pretty tasty.
I could do a little more portion size because there's no reason the kid like
always have
Emily's
second stoves
size and I are the same thing. But
Maybe you should do it less.
maybe they're telling me something.
me too.
I think the portion sizes have been fine.
How dare you?
What's been so we've had different themes, like dress themes throughout the week. What's been we'll just do one. Like what's been your favorite one so far?
Well, I'd have to say the retro theme of today. The listeners are deprived of a beautiful experience of seeing me in a retro 1980s short sleeve jacket
That's pretty banging.
that John provided for me. So that was free, and I didn't have to provide it. So I think that's pretty good. I think I'm working it.
Yeah, I like it actually. It looks good.
It's a good one. This is really the only one
I think if
participated in. So
If I had one like my size, I'd look like a kite.
It does kind of look like a kite.
yeah, I think Retro Day is the only one I really participated in. Those one putting my hat backwards for backwards day.
Yeah.
Your hair was pretty.
But I had that.
Pretty strong.
I found
Blue wig.
a blue hair metal mullet that was in our costume bin, and I thought that would work pretty well.
Yeah, his dog's here as well.
Very
Yeah.
similar hair.
It's very similar hair to that wig. It's
It
pretty
was like
funny.
wavy, wiry.
I tried to participate in backwards day, but I cannot take the collar of my shirt like on my neck. I just even wore a t-shirt that day I thought would work. So that I didn't participate. And I didn't participate in Inside Out Day, so I felt like a bad person.
I tried to wear my jeans, these jeans inside out, and it was hard to get the zipper up and down.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was weird.
And it's like that
Richard-
every day, though.
Yeah. Retro Day was my favorite. I only wore mine for about 2 hours because the leotard was hurting a little bit. But
There is video of this, though.
yeah, you have to check out our TikTok a little bit later. Okay, let's do a quick just rundown of, maybe not quick, but what's like, Nathan, we'll start with you. Like your top three, since it's a Salvation Army camp, let's do top three Salvation Army band pieces.
I'm bad at picking favorite pieces. I think about ones that have been meaningful to me in my life. So I played. So Song of Courage has always been meaningful to me. Eric Ball. I've not been in a place in my life where I've been able to. Like I've not lived in a town with a staff band, and I didn't grow up at a big giant corps. So there's some pieces like my experiences of playing Great Army pieces as a player was largely camp experiences, and then also playing in like contest bands and community bands. I had a really special moment playing Song of Courage with the St. Louis Brass Band when I was a kid. It was like the first time I kind of like realized just like the power of God's Spirit to speak through something, even if everyone wasn't on board. So it was really powerful. And I think I played it again maybe at CMI, and kind of just there's like a really beautiful experience of kind of recognizing the power when like everyone's really in it for the same thing. That was really beautiful. So that piece has always been meaningful to me. I've got a real soft spot for Jim Kerno's Great Salvation War, which he wrote for the band at Asbury. We performed last year, 2 years ago, with the SSF band.
Was that when you guys came out to Seattle?
No, we didn't do Great Salvation War. We came out to Seattle. We did the big Bill Gordon concert when we
that's
came
right,
out to
that's
Seattle.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
So I'd say that, and then Just As I Am, Heaton, with like big shout outs to Resurgam, Symphony of Thanksgiving. All in all, Shine as a Light. It's different. Some like as a standard bearer of some of that new style that like everyone's emulated since then. But I'd probably go with those three. Have like been very meaningful in my life.
Yeah. I'll go next because your experience has been fairly limited. Light of the World.
Yeah.
That's always a big one. Resurgam. I'm just a very big picture guy when I play music, and so like there's a lot of imagery with that music that's kind of missing with music written now, almost, at least in my mind, and so I'm not impacted as much by some of the newer music. And then I think it's All That I think All That I Am is right in the middle of the piece, but I can't remember the title of the piece. I think it's a Bill Himes piece. But it's important to me because I think at WMI, I was like 17 or 18. And, I was kind of a wild person. And so like I wasn't sure if music was going to be like my thing. And I just remember like when that tune came up, ba-da-dee-dee, just like the Lord speaking in my heart, just like, hey, like,
Yeah.
like you're playing this, but do you mean it? And so I remember just putting down my cornet. Actually, I remember bringing my cornet to the altar and said, hey, look, like, I don't want this to be about me. You know, it's for your glory. So I think that those three pieces. Keith.
I don't think I have anything that I can remember. To be
All right,
honest.
so just give us, in your context, what, like, your experience of music. Veggie Tales. SpongeBob.
The Pirates that don't do anything really resonated with me when I was younger.
You're a trombone player. Mahler 2's got to mean something to you, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I guess for my outside perspective, we'll call it something like a Mahler 2, where, it's so the chorale specifically, even though it's the Dies Irae, it's still like one of the most beautiful sounds you will hear. I think when composers are crafty and creative in that aspect where, things have meaning, like the Dies Irae, it signifies death, but you can make it a really beautiful chorale like Mahler did.
Did you ever get to play Mahler 2?
No,
I played it in grad school.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous. I saw the BSO do it. I think really for me, it's like Brahms really resonates with me. He's got early Brahms has a lot of anxiety and doubt that he's not good enough. He compares himself to Beethoven. I'll never be good enough. And it took him forever to write his first symphony, and then the next symphony he wrote over a summer. It's pretty funny. I love the history behind a lot of compositions and composers.
Yeah, Brahms pretty good. It's like, if you like color, it's all about color with Brahms. My theory.
Yeah. Well, we're here at Music and Worship Arts Camp, and I know we're not done yet, but let's just talk about just a quick reflection of how the week is going. Nathan, what have you been up to this kind of like your responsibilities here this week?
So my primary responsibility has been leading the students' band, the senior band. So the camp out here, they've got like a senior and a junior camp happening simultaneously. So a little shout out to John and Keith for having to manage essentially two distinct schedules with a little bit of overlap. But so I've been leading the senior band. We rehearse for a couple hours each day. And then I've been leading the Timberlake Brass Band, which is a sort of a revival of something they used to do out here that hasn't happened for a while. I think this is John's fourth year. So this is something that have happened before COVID, and so it's the staff plus some of the students that are really interested in a challenge. So that's been fun to kind of, particularly for those students who are willing to give up some free time, who've got some capacity, to see them rise to the challenge. And that gets to just do this thing, which I think is really magical about Salvation Army brass bands, which doesn't happen much in society at all, which was a part of like the central foundation of music's role in society for almost all of human history, which is just kids playing music with adults. So that's just a really awesome experience when you got, like, so sitting next to you, you've got Jonah, who's really gifted and bright, but hasn't had a lot of experiences. And just to see how quickly he learns in that capacity, I think that's really beautiful. And I think it's maybe among the things I like best about Salvation Army bands is that they put people together, and not just a teacher-student relationship, but it's like discipleship. It's like you're with me and we're playing music together. Also here at the Salvation Army, like you're with me and we're walking together with and toward Jesus for the kingdom, or with Jesus in the kingdom or toward the kingdom. So I think that's really beautiful. So I really enjoy that. So that fills the majority of that's like my main responsibilities here. And then losing my voice, shouting at children over music.
Well, you play a vital role in our chapels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
good Lord.
don't downplay that.
I am Jesus in the little skits
Full
for
stop.
chapel. No, not
So,
full stop. In
I
our
know
little
it's-
skits for chapel.
Name dropped in the one I did.
They didn't acknowledge that I was Jesus at the beginning. I just seemed like a band manager.
They did that yesterday, I think.
Yeah,
I
it
think
came
was
in
the first one.
I think it's Keith was the first one.
Yeah, mine says
Also just on the side.
it's like a little joke in there. It's like, huh, thanks, Jesus.
Yeah, so it almost didn't exactly seem like it wasn't. I don't think clear with my role, And I don't think of Jesus as a band manager because the theme this week is bright band though, and it's good. And the DYS Captain Liz has done a really excellent job. So I think she's writing these skits, and so but it's like Jesus is the band manager, so he's kind of like hyping everyone up, which is nice. So it's like Jesus has got everyone's back and helping them out. But anyway, yeah. So I do that. So I've got to bring a lot of energy as the band manager each morning at chapel.
Which
You are
don't
mic'd.
lack
You don't
for.
have to yell so much. The microphone will do most of the work.
I know, but kids receive and feedback energy.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel compelled in that setting. If you don't go all in, then it just seems silly. Like they wouldn't respond. So I try to give it my all.
Now, I assume you've been, you said you grew up in Salvation Army. A lot of your musical experience has been in Salvation Army. What's kind of like, in your opinion, the importance of like music camp? 'Cause we're kind of, I'm sure it's in a lot of places, we're trying to not fight, but almost advocate for our cause of having, music camps. Yeah. And so like, what are you, in your opinion, like some of the importance of having a music camp and stuff?
It varies by place, the support. And like the nature of my role as a professor at Asbury, who's really cares about the Salvation Army, is I have my summers that are at the discretion of my time, and I need to be active professionally. So this is a good way for me to be active professionally, as well as to kind of do a few things. One, hopefully there's some students that will interact with me that go like, hey, like, I enjoyed working with you. Maybe I'd like to go to Asbury. That might be a good place. So that's beneficial to the university. Yeah. And for me, it's a nice bit of giving back. And so as John knows, like when people invite me, I feel the Salvation Army has given me a lot. So I don't ever ask for any compensation or remuneration. I just ask, like, can you fly my daughter out with me so she can be at camp? So that's been great. The value of music camp is multiple. So first, along with all things in the Salvation Army music, and this is a little point I like to make, every once in a while people have different mission statements for Salvation Army music or goals. And I think those are all well intended, and I don't think anyone's doing anything wrong or harm with that. But for me, the thing I like to emphasize is the mission of Salvation Army music is the mission of the Salvation Army. And that's to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and meet human needs in his name without discrimination. And we use music to do that. That's the avenue through which we're doing that. And so like even this week, I'm not going to name some kids by name, but there's some kids who have some deep human need and brokenness. Yeah. In that music. And there's the person in our band that John's been helping with that like shows the signs of some challenges maybe at home, some brokenness, lack of confidence, and the music can help do that. And it's not just that, but we can do that by helping present the gospel. Like today we were working on the piece and we're kind of thinking about just this little moment in a piece that my brother composed, an arrangement of No One Ever Cares for Me Like Jesus, how like the absence of the band at this big moment, which is filled by the resolution and the chord that comes in later, like reminds us that we have an absence in us that the Spirit of God wants to fill. And that's like for all humanity. So I feel passionate about like using music and taking advantage of those moments to accomplish the goal, which is to teach the gospel, preach the gospel, which is like we've sinned, we've fallen short, and Christ has made a way for us to be brought back into a loving relationship with the triune God, that we can participate in the love of the ever-loving Trinity, right? And we can be transformed. So that's meaningful, and that's on one level, right? So just accomplishing that. So if none of these kids ever go back to a corps, if none of these kids ever make music at their corps, if they don't do anything else, I think Salvation Army music, things like this are worth it on that level. But I think there's more than that. I think they can be more meaningful like when we do these things which provide a means and a way for kids to use their gifts, for people to use their gifts, that they can use them in their churches and hopefully to have healthy churches. In my dissertation research and among just like other like research that people looked into, like participating in music in the Salvation Army is a huge marker for your continued participation in the Salvation Army as you go forward. And I think there's
like into adulthood.
Into adulthood, yeah. I think there's like some basic principles of this. It doesn't have to, like if people don't play an instrument, there's ways that the same things can be managed. But like I said, like this idea of like intergenerational music, people making music together. When you play in a band, like you're needed. Like you know fundamentally, I can't just miss this Sunday because they need me. which reminds us of the truth that like we don't just go to church to receive something, we go to church to enact the body of Christ, right? To worship him, but we are the body of Christ together. And when we're not there, like the body is not whole. And you recognize that really profoundly in a band. Like if the tuba player doesn't show up, you miss them.
Yeah.
Like they're needed. And you know that if I'm not there, I miss. So it provides a reason to come sometimes when you don't feel it and sometimes when you don't want to be there and you'd just rather sleep in. You've got a reason to be there and you've got a reason to belong. So I think that's a big part of it. And also just that intergenerational community is something our society almost lacks entirely. And that you get there and you're a part of something. You're banded together. You belong to a community. Like the band is like the beta version of the small group in the Salvation Army. And so it's retained people for a long time. And sometimes people will be aware it's retained people maybe for the wrong ends. And some people have like put that above the mission and above other things. But I think sometimes there's a cop out to say that all the time. I don't think that's the normative story. Like I think often it's a means of grace by which they come together to interact with the body of Christ and receive goodness from that. And so I think we're bringing them into that story and we're helping them develop their skills. And so I think all that really matters.
Yeah, and I'll just say that like however true or not true that could be for people in music in the Salvation Army, like at least they're getting the gospel, right? Even if they're at church for just the band, like if they weren't there, then they wouldn't be hearing the gospel on that specific day. I mean, we don't really know, or I don't really know, but at least when they're there, even though they're just there whoever might just be there for the band, like it's an opportunity for them to be a part of the body and hear the gospel.
Yeah. And music plants those truths deep. Like music, we know this. Like people, when they have Alzheimer's, they have dementia, they remember their songs that they sang.
Yeah.
Like those things get planted really deep into our souls, into our identity. So that's huge.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot at Everett. Like, so at our core, this year at least, we just said everyone's gonna play a brass instrument.
Yeah.
And then we have like 2 elective classes after that, and well, 1, right? We have 1 time of elective where they can choose, and then everyone sings. Mm-hmm. So they have 2 required things, and just reflection after the season is kind of like, well, do we need to continue that? For the majority, I think most of them are pretty engaged and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there's a couple that are just, they're so not interested.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in this. I don't think we need to feel like we can't do everything at core. And I think sometimes when I go around and I see different cores, sometimes I see them fall. This is in my little presentation too. Sometimes we try to do everything like it's music camp and we try to bring it back home. I'm a big believer that we should only be doing what we do well. So I think we have an obligation to use everyone's gifts if they're part of the Salvation Army. I think it's an operating principle of the Salvation Army that everyone can serve God and serve God well. So if you've got someone at your church who can play the oboe and you don't let them play because you have a brass band, you're stifling God's gifts. I think it's really, you got to find a way to use the gifts people have. That said, we don't have any obligation to do things we don't do well when we're teaching our kids or when we're doing music programs. So sometimes people do things, well, we got to have a chance, like this kid at our core wants to dance. Like, okay, that's great. If they can dance, we need to use them. But do we have anyone that can teach dance well? And if we don't have anyone that can teach dance well, I don't think we need to have an obligation to do it. Like we could do other things to encourage them. Like just because we don't teach it doesn't mean. And same thing's true with brass. Like if you've got people that can dance at your church and can teach people to dance, and then you're like trying to force a band, well, I feel like you're missing out. Like do the things you can do well, and you don't have to offer everything. That's one of the beauties of music camp. They can go out to music camp, and they can do some things that maybe you can't do at your core. But like limiting, sometimes we try to do everything and then we don't do anything well and nothing sticks. Like at our core, we've come to it, like we just like everyone does band. Like someone really resists, like we don't make them do it. But like here's like we have an abundance of resource of capable brass band teachers. So we can staff it well. we don't have anyone at our church. We have some dancers who could teach it, but they don't have time to teach it, and they're unable to make it work in their schedule. So maybe there's a season in their life when they can, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to feel bad. Like, I don't think we're stifling gifts to do that, to say like, hey, this is what we can do well. And kids will like it. Like, kids are, like, some people have this idea, like, oh, we want to let our kids do the things they're passionate about. Yeah, that sounds good. But sometimes kids are going to do the things you put in front of them. And it's, like, it is okay for us to say, hey, here are the gifts we have as a church, and we're passing these on to you. I don't think we have to feel bad about that. Like, that's different than someone saying, I have this gift and I want to use it, and us saying, no, you can't do it because it's not our thing. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
And I think like we should do the things we can do well and the things we have resources for. So if your core has got like you and Keith there, you can teach some kids how to play instruments. Teach some kids to play instruments. Like, I don't want Keith teaching. If I were at your church, I don't want Keith teaching my daughter how to dance.
You would not want that.
Yeah.
It would not go very far.
You know what I mean?
I'd pay to see that.
She learned the Running Man and not much else. That's about it.
That's my point. So I think that's like, not that Keith's Running Man isn't a gift.
I think, part of that, though, is also these kids, but maybe they don't know what they're passionate about yet, and it's trying to expose them to all that.
Yeah, exactly right. And, like, so you do that, and we found that, like, if you don't give it as an option. Another thing I learned, I'll stop. I can go down another tangent that'll be related but not connected.
I think for our specific situation, there's, I guess, some complacency in some kids. Like, you hand them a cornet, because the approach was, you're here, you're playing in the band, and then we'll have other offerings for you to figure out as well. But like, this is the one required thing that you're doing here. And we got some kids that I don't know that they've really retained much outside of how to hold the instrument and how to play hot cross buns. And so we're thinking, would these kids maybe benefit from something more movement based, like a timbrels, because we have a leader that can do timbrels really well.
Praise and worship.
We're looking at, but then, we don't really want to detract from opportunities, and we also don't want to, cut things.
Having said that, like, the majority of the band kids at our core are doing band here, and so like, it'll be interesting to see how that translates into the next program year, if it does. Like, if, some of them are pretty, like, one is Joshua.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Doing a really good job. Another one, we moved Paxton to euphonium.
So are we able to say kids' names? Is it all right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Like, Dominic struggled a little bit, but he's.
I'm so happy he's here, though.
But he's so excited. Like, he has to leave early. He wants to take his music home. Like, he's like, can I really want to take my music. So I told him no, obviously. Just kidding. I'm like, that's my music. No. But something that can happen at a small core, we can end up like siphoning off like the people we need. So it was like, well, you got, like, if you take some of the kids away, then it can be struggle for it to go as this community. It runs counter to culture, which is everything's about the individual and about the individual's desires. And like, some people will hear this, I imagine, and think, wow, that's somebody who's just pushing the band too much. There's other things that matter too. And I just tell people over and over again, I'm really not that way. Like, if your core, like some people think dance, like, it's culturally, dance is for girls or timbrels is for girls. And I just think all of that's real dumb. It's like, if you've got a really awesome timbrel thing, like, just like do it, and like, then do it. But you just can't run 5 programs well at your church with having a healthy expectations for families and kids. Like, you can't have kids in everything. So you have to choose some things that you're going to do. And I'm cool if it's not band. Like, I don't think it has to be band. And that's like understanding your context, understanding like what you've got going on around you, and like just taking some basic assessments of your gifts and what resources you have. So as a part of my workshop, when I go around, I have people do an assessment of the leaders and the gifts you have at your church. What sorts of things can you do? What sorts of things can you do well? Now take an assessment of how much time you can reasonably give for healthy families. And this is where I think we have to build our programs on the expectations that you would have for healthy families, and not just for the kids that's parents. Like, we have some kids that their parents are going to send them for everything. But if we build our programs around that, we're not encouraging them to be healthy families. So, like, what's a reasonable expectation for time we can give? And then you ask the question, how much time do we need for us to do this thing well? Because this thing can happen a lot with bands. You go, okay, we've got these kids in bands, but I see it all the time. where a corps will have 30 minutes or 45 minutes of band once a week.
Yeah.
And then they've got that, like that's bad. A kid can't learn to play an instrument.
I think
they're 8 years old and they're getting 45 minutes a week in a group lesson.
I think we figured out it was like 11 hours of the program year that we did this year.
Yeah.
11 hours in 10 months or something, 8 months, 9 months.
So
that is not a lot of time.
And so that's the thing I say, I'm a big believer that all kids should be singing, but sometimes you just don't have time in your program to do everything. And so it means that if you want the things you're doing to last and to be sticky, if you want the kids to be able to play and to have success, you've got to solve some of the inherent problems, which are like the amount of time you're teaching them, and you're limited because the little kids can't play that long. So like if they're not getting some other instruction during the week, like how are you going to get? Because that's the thing people don't account for when they think, and I'm using in your context, well, Seattle Temple, or like you got kids at the Seattle Temple, they might only have 30, 45 minutes of band class, but they're going home to families who can play. They're going home to parents who can help them, and they like they understand that system. And so when you go to White Center, right? The kids at White Center, they're not grown up in a generational Salvation Army family where both their parents can play. And so like that 30 minutes that works for that kid at Seattle Temple can't work for the kid at White Center.
Yeah.
And so like you have to build your program accordingly and go, okay, so we might need more time to do this thing, or we might need to make sure that we're getting a private lesson worked out for that kid during the week so that those skills can be sticky enough. Because if they don't learn, like hot cross buns is an awesome achievement for them to get to. But if they do hot cross buns 3 semesters in a row, they're going to quit.
Yeah.
They're going to quit. So they've got to get better. You've got to give them time to get better. And if you don't have that time, but you got someone who can play the ukulele, teach them to play the ukulele.
Yeah. I think we're doing a pretty good job at Everett. I think we got a lot of thinking to do in terms of, well, I have a plan for the next year. You know, it's can we get it off and running, and there's some approval process that needs to happen first. But you know, if we can start that, I think we have a good opportunity to grow the program.
Yeah. The last thing I'll mention, a huge part that people don't think about with growing their programs. It's kind of like part of my, like you're gonna lose people from music programs. You're gonna move, even if you do things great. But part of the thing is recruiting at the level of your program. So like you've got these kids coming back. You've got Dominic, you've got Josh, you've got Paxton, you've got Emily. You've got a little core group there. They're not quite big enough to be a band, but they're not beginners. So one problem core often make is they go, okay, well, we've got to work beginners. But the beginners are never going to catch them.
Yeah.
They're never going to catch them to be a band. And so growing, like making recruitment to grow to your space. So like those kids are playing at a pretty decent middle school level. So how do you get into the schools? How do you like find those kids? How do you like work through them? Like Josh is playing at his school. Can you get him to catch the vision? Well, in the Salvation Army, our goal is to win the world for Jesus.
Yeah.
I bet there's some kids at your school that play that could come. We've got some teachers here who can help them. Maybe you can send a note to their, like, I live in Kentucky. It's pretty easy for me to get into schools. I don't know what it is like here. I mean, I don't go into schools preaching the gospel in the school.
Yeah.
But I would go in when I was at the Corps in Lexington, and I'd go, okay, well, we've got these kids. And so we ended up growing I don't know if my youth band was really kicking when you were there, but we had like a 35-piece youth band. I think 25 of our kids made All-State. But it wasn't because I taught them super well. It was because like we went around and recruited kids at the level over and over again. So we were recruiting kids in high school. And so they had friends that were in our band that were playing well. And so I'd be like, can you talk to your teacher? Help me, like, let's get in. I'll come in and I'll make a presentation. And we'd get them to come out, and then we would grow that way. So like you can't go out to the high school. Like your kids aren't quite good enough to go and recruit all-state high school players to come and play with them.
Yeah.
But they are good enough to get some middle schoolers. And my experience has been that teachers in those schools are dying for someone to be like, hey, we've got a program to give some free extra instruction to some of your brass kids. Like, and to grow, like you don't need 30 kids.
Yeah.
Like you need 3 kids to get yourself a little band that's playing at their level. And then you get them to going. And then that's where it becomes regenerating. It's like, okay, well, those kids are coming in, they're having a good experience, and we're making some music. Well, next year they're all better. And you recruit kids at the level of those next kids. And like, hey, can you guys help us? Do you guys have any other friends at school that might be good here? Do you have any other friends around town? And then you get the little siblings in. And like that's a bit of recruiting that I've not seen a lot of people do. Just be like, hey, we've got a program. how can we get people into it without having to start them as beginners? Because we've got to get some other people in.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing in that I don't feel the Army. This is a very generic statement, especially of the youth these days. They're not so quick to like want to bring their friends to church, especially for. Now I don't go to youth group because youth group is on Friday nights,
And you're a little old. I'm gonna speak the reality here.
and our music programs are on Thursday nights. I don't. Most of our kids go to. They're all from different schools, and I don't think they've. And we've mentioned it to them. I think like, hey, would you invite your friends, to come and.
But you know what? I think as far as the core that I go to for programs, the kids at Everett do some really good recruiting, I think. Because we've lost a fair amount for one reason or another. But let's take Josh, for example. Josh was brought in by a girl who was also brought in by an existing youth at our core. Dominic was brought in by another kid. We've got kids that get brought in as a result, and I think there's been efforts to. There's another girl, I think she played baritone or euphonium, that she came to check out one time. But those kids they spread the word. They say like, hey, we do these programs Thursdays.
Yeah, we lost. I think her name was Stella. They were coming in the fall. Then after the New Year, I don't think they came back, but she's actually coming to musical theater camp next week. So Nathan, you kind of talked about some of the traps of Salvation Army music. You've talked about, tips for success. What are some of the areas that you've seen that they're doing music really, really well? And
Places?
Why is it? Yeah, and why is it that they're doing well? It could be, specific core. It could be divisions or territories.
So a lot of time it has to do with investment. So, I think right now the place that's kind of kicking with the most gas and making the biggest investment is the Potomac division from like the things that I've seen. So the place that things are going really well. I think they've got, I don't want to overstate it. I can tend to exaggeration, but I think they have like upwards of like a dozen. I think more than that. Might think more than that. I'm going to say a dozen because I'm pretty confident that that's right. That's not an overstatement of paid music professionals in their division, and they've seen the fruit of it. They've seen the stickiness of these kids, and they've seen core grow. So I think I was out there and I did their camp last year. I did some music leadership stuff with people from their division.
Are they DHQ employees or core?
Some of them are DHQ employees, and some of them are core employees, and some of them are regional employees. I'm a big believer that the more people we have at the core, I think it's easier success at the core. And the saying I say over and over again to people is the mission of the Salvation Army takes place primarily at core, or it should. And it is not, and this is a thing that can be challenging in some Salvation Army music context. It is not the job of the core to support the divisional programs or divisional music programs. It is a job of the division to support the core. Yeah. Because sometimes we end up getting the kids are so camp focused, they're so divisional program focused that we're not inviting them to mission, we're catering to them in service. And the most powerful thing about the Salvation Army is not that we actually do service to someone, but the powerful thing about the vision and the ideal of the Salvation Army is that we invite people to join us. And this is a tangent. I'll be careful not to go too long. In the 1950s, the Salvation Army, taking the advice of some social work principles and thinking at the time, wanted to begin treating the people we served more as clients and less as colleagues. And it was at the same time that people stopped kids born in the 1950s, they wanted them to touch their parents as little as possible. There's just this movement for this really sterile sorts of care. It's the same thing happened in social work. So it's at the same time that we start seeing the Salvation Army starts imagining itself as reaching out to the people in need, right? So there's statements that a lot of us have loved and I've come to think less of lately, like this idea of heart to God, hand to man, kind of places the Salvationist in the middle of God and man. Where earlier on, the Salvation Army, not that everything was perfect early on, but the Salvation Army came alongside. And so the real transformative thing is that we wanted to help people, but we didn't think that you being poor and in the gutters was preventative of you being holy and useful for service. That you could become a soldier and you could join in the fight right away And then like we kind of shifted this thing where we're like helping people out. And so I think at the core, like in the divisional programs, we're kind of like helping people at their places. But when you're at the core, it's easy to invite our kids to go like, this is why it's important to have them help us. Like, you're a junior soldier, you're a young soldier. Like, you have the same mission we have to share the gospel. Like, and so when we invite people to that vision and not just say, we want you to come and help us in our band, but to go, hey, Josh, this is your band. Hey, Josh, this is our core and our mission. And what we're trying to do here is win the world for Jesus. And so, like, we need you to be a part of it. I think that's more engaging. And I think young people who are constantly being, like, like, I think they sense the inauthenticity of people going, like, if it were, and I don't think you're doing anything self-seeking, John, but if it's like, hey, I want my band to be good, come, I need you to be in my band, I think they recognize that. And I think this generation particularly is attuned to that being used. And so I say invite them to the mission. And I think that's more appealing.
I think it's funny, I've said this before in previous episodes, but this last season I took the kids with me to every corps I went to. Yeah. And it was a little too much.
When you say the kids, you mean your two kids?
My two kids, Paxton and Emily, yeah.
Yeah, who are remarkably embarrassed by your outfit today.
Well, there's more where that came from. They were pretty tired, I think, from all the travel that they did this last year. And sometimes, they would want to hang out with their friends from school, or, they're like, oh, they want to come over. And I would tell them, well, you have band tonight, or you have music programs. And, sometimes they would tell me, well, can we invite them? I'm like, sure.
And you said no.
And sometimes their parents said no. Sometimes their parents said no, or, once they found out it was a church thing, they were less open to it. But, it's funny, having said what I said earlier, that my kids sometimes will offer to invite, their kids. Yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think we celebrate them for that too. It should be like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Your kids are really great, John. The cat's been doing a good job raising them.
Yes, she has.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Oh man, you said something that jogged my mind, but I got distracted by something.
Well, while we're waiting, Keith's another example of this, of like recruiting to a level. Like Keith is someone who like uses
He's not
music.
on my level.
But
He's not.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you're built different, John. Anyway, Keith is like someone who like
Wider.
These gifts were cultivated, right? And they went dormant for a while, as you kind of talked about in your message the other day during soloist night. But it's like, here's Keith. He didn't grow up in our tradition, in our system, but he grew up using music. Those gifts were cultivated. He had some engagement, like with you in high school, right? You guys were high school friends, and they had some engagement with Matt Lunn. And there were like some seeds that were planted, and now they're blossoming here. But like some people don't ever think, and then like this, when people ask me in a division or a corps, we're trying to hire someone. They'll go, do you have anyone from Asbury, any Salvationists we could hire? Sometimes I do, and I will encourage them to hire my students. But I often say, like, you don't need to find a Salvationist for your job. You need to find someone who knows your community and hire them to help you accomplish the mission there. And this historically is the way. So there are very few examples of the Salvation Army adult regenerative music programs growing out of kids programs. But the Salvation Army music in America grew largely on a few levels, in a few ways. One, the Salvation Army would hire a local bandmaster to help teach their converts to play. So that's how it started in Danbury, Connecticut with George Ives, Charles Ives' dad, led the Salvation Army band, not as a Salvationist, but just as a guy who was hired, who like could get behind the mission and needed to help pay for his kids, food. So like did that, and they just started to play. There's other stories or examples all around of the Salvation Army just hiring a local music director to help teach their converts to play. And those bands were terrible. Right. The other way that they grew is by like getting people who already could play. A famous early Salvationist musician, Ed Trumpeter Trumbull, was played in brass bands and was like a cornet soloist around Ohio. And he came and joined up, eventually became the staff bandmaster in New York. So they brought him in. So you have stories of this of people who played elsewhere. The Keiths. That's how core bands have grown.
Wasn't it? I could be wrong on this, but what was the Fry family? Weren't they not?
They're Methodist, yeah.
They weren't part of the original crew, but then they got called to serve.
Exactly right. And so this is a part of the story. Unfortunately, sort of we don't like in the Salvation Army historically, we haven't liked to tell the stories of the people who've come alongside. So there's always like we want to always kind of have this story where it's like, oh, everyone's like saving a. I used to say this too, like my family must have been every Salvationist, every generational Salvationist that somewhere's got a drunk in their family tree who was saved by the Salvation Army. What I've learned is that's not often the case, or it's not usually the case, not always the case at least. Which is like sometimes it's that you had a Christian who was like saw the mission in your family's history, who saw the mission of the Salvation Army. And said, oh, I want to be a part of that. Like, that's an effective way for me to use gifts. The whole Rader family came by that. Godly, wonderful people who had a background in music, like Paul Rader's uncle, who was also called Paul Rader, who later dies in the lake at Camp Wonderland in Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, was struck by lightning going out to save some other people. Like, he was a hymn writer. He wrote hymns. And the Rader family comes because they were Christians who saw the mission of the Salvation Army and wanted to be a part. But sometimes we just don't tell that story because it's better for fundraising, or it makes us feel better to be like, we saved the drunks in the addicts or whatever. And that is a part of our story, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah.
And so like we need to be ready to like hire someone like Keith who shares our faith, who can be used. And like now, am I right, Keith, that you're more invested in the Army's mission on a personal level now than you were when you started?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like oh, I can see how my gifts can be used here. So I think we missed the mark by like we'll do this thing, we'll have a corps in some place or a division in some place, and we'll be like, oh, we got to get a Salvationist to come do this job. And then they come in and they don't know the community, and their whole network is from outside that place.
Yeah.
So then we're like, they're going to be more focused on camp. They're going to be more focused on all these sort of like Salvation Army things, and they might struggle to connect to their community.
Which is what matters most. Yeah.
I think it matters a lot. Yeah. I'm like, I think so.
Yeah.
For me, that's my biases. And my biases are that I've never been a divisional music director, and I've been at a corps. And so, like, I believe that good ministry happens in divisions and at music camp. I'm not against that. But all this came from Potomac. They're investing in corps, and I think they've got over 20 corps in their division that have band of at least like 6 people. But there's other really great places where things are happening. Like Andy Barrington's done a really great job in Oklahoma, and they've grown a program from just about nothing. There's really awesome things. I was just in Massachusetts that are doing some great things, and they've got a number of little bands that are springing up places because of consistent investment over time. And I think like they don't get the same investment.
Is that time and money?
Yeah, I mean they get less money than some of the places in the South. Like the Potomac Division has put money, as well as time and as well as effort and good work into it. But like if you were to look at the amount of budgeted money towards music professionals in Potomac Division versus Massachusetts, it's not parallel. But again, in Massachusetts, it's a similar thing. Matt Lunn's been there for 10 years, and his assistant divisional music director is not a Salvationist, but he was a local music teacher who had worked out at camp as a college student, who was a music educator and came out of the schools, and like he can teach well, and he's like connected to that area. So it's been really beneficial. So they don't get the same investment, but Matt's been there for a while, and they've grown things. There's some really awesome things happening in greater New York, and they've made some investment over time. So
yeah,
lots of places.
We've had this discussion, Keith, of like the way I approach the job is just a way, like one way to approach it, of going out to core every week. And I've been kind of thinking of like, is that the most effective? It has brought success in other divisions, but I've also left those divisions after 3.5 years, right? So I haven't been able to see, I think in terms of time, it would have been interesting to see how long term like Golden State would have turned out, things were growing a lot, but I was also going to 6 corps a week there. And that wasn't sustainable, so it would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, I think those my experience, and there's places that do that really well. Like Texas has been a place that has sent DMDs and made an investment over a long period of time. And there's certainly been like lots of successes there. I don't think that they're not sustainable lives for our music professionals. Like if they're, Keith's a young man, right? And you're still single, correct?
Yeah, I told everyone yesterday I'm 25 years old.
He's 25 years old, ladies. Anyway, like, but as you've got kids, it gets harder and harder. And so, like, I think we should have expectations that are appropriate for families. Like, we can't ask our employees to do things that are unhealthy for their families. I think that's fundamentally incongruous with what we're trying to do.
But the hard part is, like, all our programs happen in times where that would be family time, right? So all our programs happen in the evening.
This is why I think the Army structure isn't set up well for this, to pay core music directors a living wage. But I think that we need more core music directors, because it's a sustainable life for your family. Because what you're doing on those programs you're with your family.
Yeah.
And like, it's an easier path to success. It's really hard because you can help when you go around to 6 core. You can pour into the lives of those kids, and that is meaningful and good. And when the Army has done that and where they've done that, that's been awesome. And it's poured into the life of those kids. You can't grow a core that you're not attending to. You're not attending.
Yeah. True.
You can't grow a core you're not attending. So you can help kids, and that's meaningful music education. And I think it's good, and I don't think we need to be sorry for the places that have done that and continue to do that. And again, it's like using a resource where you have some financial resource to spend it to try to make it helpful to the most people you can. But sometimes we do it, and it keeps them from being able to grow their core, and it gets them out of those jobs. And again, it's kind of like having just few programs at your core that you can do well. When we have a divisional job, sometimes the DCs or the division in general just wants to make sure that they're serving all the core equally. And I can understand that as an appeal. But like, I don't think there's anything wrong to say, let's invest in, let's grow something strong here, and let's let that thing be a resource to the other things. It's a longer vision, but like, I think that you can grow a functional music program at a core in 3 years. And so if the division can like fund that and like let the DMD focus on that core, and then also do music camp and like plant the wide net and those things, do a divisional music day where you're getting together once a month. But if you don't have one core that can be a pillar, like, you need a cornerstone. You need some cornerstones to build on. Yeah. And then, like, you mentioned the thing at Puyallup. I can't say it. Say it for me.
Puyallup.
Puyallup. I can get y'all. See, I got to get the y'all. Puyallup. You can get, like, so you've got a kid who's at 45 minutes away. Well, maybe they can come to Puyallup.
You'll get it someday.
Puyallup.
Well, the next time you're here as a guest.
Edit all of these out and pretend like I can just like edit your voice over mine every time I say.
That'd be hilarious.
Every time I try to say
Puyallup.
See, I did it perfect.
Well, so it also really depends on leadership, right? Like, not say a visiting, music instructor, but I can think of 3 core leadership that one has, this is my baby. We are going to bend over backwards to make this happen for all our kids. I can think of another that like has 100% buy-in, but maybe doesn't have all the necessary tools or wherewithal to get it going. And I can think of another one that is more of like a if you build it, they will come approach, where maybe they put a plant in a pot, put some water in it, and expect that's the extent of my work here. Yeah. My work here is done. So, there's such a wildly varying participation between leadership there that I think it kind of, if you don't have that 100% buy-in, then how can it thrive?
I think you have to have someone at a core who's not leaving.
Yeah.
Who's bought in. And I don't think they have to be.
So not an officer.
Not an officer.
Yeah.
An officer can be really useful, but if they leave and there's not someone who's sticky, like an adult who's got a job but doesn't want to move, like if you don't have someone who's committed, because you need someone, because you're not going to get 4 officers in a row who have the same passions.
Yeah.
It's just
but
not
at the same time, if you get a new officer, they could either flourish that or absolutely kill it too.
Yeah, that's where I think a divisional music director can, like, in a division, can help empower soldiers to be like, it is not your officer's core. Like, and sometimes in officers, like, often they go to core that are really small and it's just them. And so I have so much respect for officers. I mean, they are willing, they follow the Lord's call to move to different places, to uproot their families. They're not,
you were an officer's kid, right?
I am an officer's kid. Yeah. And I love my parents. Right. And they're great. But even some officers that, like, I might go, I don't know that they're doing a great job. Maybe always. I have a deep respect for them.
Sure.
And we kind of raise them in a system where there aren't many corps that have the sort of local officer, local people support to help them. And particularly when they're out of training, we send them to places that don't usually have that. And so it can be hard if they go to a place that isn't. But that's where a division can support. And when they move to a new corps and there's like some local leaders going, it's like, hey, listen, this is what this corps is doing, and you need to come along and support that. And then I just tell the local officers all the time, is sometimes you just have to stand up and just say, like, no, this is the thing that we're doing. Like, we're committed to it. And this is where it's like, we've got a 3-year plan. We've got a 5-year plan. We're in the middle of something. Come and see for a little bit. There's some fruit growing on this tree. We want you to help support us. And so that's like soldiers take that. But if you have someone sticky who's there and going to stay, then like you have at least the ground to support something going on. Because you just have to have someone who's going to be there and isn't going to leave. And sometimes it's like local support. One of the little workshop things I do is have people think, what are the other local, so you have your divisional music resources. What are other resources that are available to you? Like, what are the music programs in your area? Are there, like, most towns have places that provide free lessons? Can you make your corps like a place where they can come and give lessons to your kids? Like, what are the other things? There's other resources outside of Salvation Army resources for teaching our children and preparing.
Yeah, I think that's actually the next passion project he has for our corps.
Yeah.
To turn that into more of like a
music school almost.
Yeah, but sometimes there's already places that are doing it. So like asking yourself, like doing just a little workshop, what other programs are happening in our area? And can we like add to them? Can we attach onto them? Can we like supplement them? Or are there like great needs? Like, do you have a really poor school in your area that doesn't have enough music teachers and a band booster club? So I took my when I was the music director in Lexington, I got our officers to let me go and spend my Friday afternoons. They'd pay me from the corps, and I would go and lead brass sectionals at the poor school, like high school in our area. And so I ended up getting 7 or 8 kids who ended up coming to our music programs from that. So I would just go every day, and the Army would pay me. And I think that's a better model of using Salvation Army resource than paying Salvationists to travel, 100 miles to go play in a Salvation Army thing.
Yeah, I think so. We brought it up, I brought it up because there's a local music store in Everett, and
shout it out. We might get a sponsor.
Kennelly Keys.
Closed on Mondays, Tuesdays, I think Sundays.
Sundays, I think, yeah. And so we were in there grabbing some material or something, I can't remember. And I saw that they had a flyer for like brass lessons. I was like, oh, like who's your brass teacher? Do they have openings and stuff like that? And I think they said the brass teacher had like a 30 kid wait list or something like that. There was a bunch of kids that want to take lessons, but there's just no bandwidth for the teacher.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, why can't we do that? Like, we could easily not easily, but we can fulfill that role, and we could have them pay or not pay, whatever.
Yeah.
But we could easily fulfill that role. And in the school district in Everett, they don't start instrumental music until middle school, right? So they do like a little bit of ukulele and some Suzuki instruments, but in terms of like brass or even guitar, they don't really get that until they go to middle school. So, that's...
Yeah, schools like this, you find yourself a middle school teacher, and you go like, hey, can we do a 5th grade like music program for some of the kids in your district? Get them some lessons coming up for you.
So by the time they get to your school,
and this is like
this is
the gospel, particularly in some like places like Seattle that might be resistant to the gospel. Is if we do a thing for them that's just such good work. I mean, this is the story of the early church. Everyone hated them. Like everyone was distrustful of these Christians, but they were just good for society. They were just doing good things. They're like helping the widows and helping the poor folks. And it's like eventually it's like, yeah, I mean, they can't be that evil. Like they're like, Yeah. And so like if we can do things like, hey, you may not like us a ton, but can we do something to help you? Very few people. I mean, people are more likely to say, yeah, you can help us.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Water Boy?
Have I seen The Water Boy?
I imagine you have.
Yeah, I have seen The Water Boy. It's been a long time.
So I went to Paxton's promotional because he just finished 5th grade.
Yeah. Shout out to Paxton.
And I'm not going to name anything else, like where, but at his school, they did like a ukulele performance, and it was not good.
To a TV in the back.
To a TV in the back that was playing the music, so they would play along with something that they couldn't hear.
Yeah.
And the teacher, I don't think
Smoking
he was really
a cigarette on the
directing
side.
anything. It might as well have been. But it reminded me of the Water Boy where he's like, "That is the water you serve to your players. You don't have to pay me. I'll do it for free."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're actually like hiring a new teacher. They're
Yeah,
looking
it
for a
was-
new teacher.
You
at
don't
that
say.
school. Yeah.
Like if that's education, then it's like, oh man, I
Yeah.
want to get in there.
Well, I think we could continue talking about this for a long time, but we got to move on. So
Good. I can insert that SpongeBob thing right here.
yeah, an eternity later.
Yeah.
You're a professor at Asbury,
Yes.
my alma mater. That's where I met my
don't try-
wife.
we don't try to shout it out. I mean, Kat will shout out. We don't try to shout out too much for John. I'm just kidding. We're super proud of you, John.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's where I met my wife. B. Bryant also went there. Sarah Mike's also went there. There's a number of people in the Northwest.
Summer.
Summer, she's not from the Northwest.
No,
but
I was saying that before you finished.
Spent,
your
spent a
thought.
couple summers here, so.
yeah,
That's true. One of us.
yeah, one of us, yeah. And which remind me to go back to that your thing. But what makes Asbury such a special place? And it could be environment. It could be yeah.
So I'll start by saying this, which is like sometimes people, I don't know if it's as bad here because there's probably fewer Asbury alum out here, but sometimes some people around areas where I am will get sensitive when people talk about Asbury who have been from Asbury because they're like, nah, I'm doing good too and I didn't go to Asbury. Like Keith, for instance. So I just want to say out first, right out of the bat, like Asbury doesn't have a corner on good things happening. It doesn't have the corner on good education. It doesn't have a corner on good Christian education. It's not the only place where the Holy Spirit works to transform the lives of students, right? So just throw that out there at the beginning. I don't believe any of that's true. But it is a place where the Holy Spirit is working to transform the lives of students and is a place where we're doing good education. And we have a long historical connection to the Salvation Army for a few really magical ways and things that are different than other schools that Salvation Armies have been associated to in other places. So one, no place has had more Salvationists graduate from it than Asbury. So it's just more students have gone there than anywhere else. So it's a long and rich tradition. I think a part of that is we share theology and a mission. So Asbury is not affiliated with a church. So it's not denominationally affiliated. But it is theologically centered on the Wesleyan holiness tradition, which is the Salvation Army's tradition. And it is focused and has had a mission for taking the gospel to the world. So its mission is different. Now in the South, like there's the Salvation Army sometimes done things with Olivet Nazarene. And Olivet Nazarene has done good things for the Army. People have gone there and done good things. Nothing against Olivet Nazarene or Salvationists who've gone there. I'm like thankful for it. Not everyone will come to Asbury. I want other schools to have Salvationists at them and to do well.
Sure.
But for Olivet Nazarene, it would be against the mission of the institution to have someone come to their school and then join up the Salvation Army. Not that they would hate it, but they exist to support and perpetuate the ministry of the gospel through the Nazarene church. But for Asbury, it's like 100% on board if someone comes. And so that's a really unique thing with Asbury as well, is not only have a lot of Salvationists gone to Asbury and retained their faith, retained their salvationism, which we lose a lot of kids in college. We don't lose a lot at Asbury. Like Salvationists come, they keep their faith, they largely stay in the ministry of the Salvation Army, and then they go out to the field. And they're around the country, around the world, working for the kingdom of God through the Salvation Army. So at Asbury, we've also had lots of people come and join the mission of the Army and be a part. So that's a really unique and distinct thing. So the shared mission, shared purposes, shared theological traditions and background. And then we just have this long history. So in my position, I'm a third in a line. Jim Kerno was there and ran the SASF band. And then right when he left, Ron Holtz was hired. And when Ron left, I was hired, which is just like in some ways chance, in some ways just Jim really wanted a Salvationist to come after him. He couldn't choose who was going to be hired, but he really encouraged Ron to come. Ron and Jim both really encouraged me to apply for the job when Ron was leaving. So that's been a long history. And then going back further, like the SASF at Asbury, the Salvation Army Student Fellowship, kind of began when my grandpa, ironically or interestingly enough, like along with a guy named Lee Fisher, both attended. And they met each other in their uniforms on Sunday morning when they were at the bottom of the dorm getting ready to walk in their uniforms to attend the Methodist church in town.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so like since then in the 1940s, there's always been a Salvationist at Asbury. And then Paul Rader was a recent graduate who was like the music department wasn't super strong, so he was just a graduate. They didn't really have instrumental music majors, but he was at the seminary and he was leading the college wind band. But then he also, with students who were there at the time, began in 1956 or 57, began the SASF band. And the president of the school disliked the Salvation Army, and he made them meet. The only time he'd let them rehearse was at 6:30 on Saturday mornings. So they'd rehearse every Saturday at 6:30. And so, like, we exist in this long tradition of faithful service of students who've given of their time faithfully. Yeah. And we're not just training them for mission. Like, we're doing the mission of the Army while we're there at Asbury. We go on our ministry trips. We do things. And so it's a pretty magical space, a magical place in that sense that you stand in this tradition of these people. And you feel that, you know that when you're at Asbury, you kind of feel like you stand in this tradition. Like, you're like following after Jim, and you're following who came as a student. You're following after Mark Ridenauer and Robert Snelson or Jeff Barrington, all the sorts of folks that have come before us. There's like this long, rich tradition, and it's really beautiful. It's like the way that it's like that faithfulness of people in the past have blessed generations to come. So
it's unique in that, like, because for a lot of people, like transitioning from high school to college, like you spend a lot of time in high school, 4 years. Hopefully you've connected with like a solid group of people, and you know, some people are like, oh, let's all go to the same school, but that's not always practical, or even you just, that doesn't always happen that way. But especially if you're a Salvationist, you can go away at a school, and if, you know, say like Asbury, and even if you don't know anyone necessarily, you have a community there that's already built in that could immediately become like your home.
You have people like that just connect to you right off the bat. And even when you've probably found this true, there's also people that aren't from Salvation Army. You go to Asbury, you're like, oh, these are like my people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, I didn't realize that these people existed. It's like pretty awesome to learn and like study in a place. And like, I think you'd probably, like, your faith was probably challenged at Asbury in classes and different places, but it's challenged by people who want you to walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
That's pretty special. And it's like a real, some people in the Army don't realize it's a real university. They think it's almost like summer camp. But no, it's like a real university. Yeah. And there's about 50 Salvationists. There's like 1,300 students. So it's like a bigger portion than any other school, but not, you know, you're not in a hall with a bunch of Salvationists. You're in a hall with a bunch of guys. Yeah. Or girls, depending on which you are. But
it's interesting because, you know, Hannah, who's the camp media person, she went to Houghton College.
Yeah.
And she found out about the Salvation Army because a Salvation Army brass band. I'm not sure if does Houghton have a student?
They don't have a student brass band. There's a corps that has an SASF, like a little, it's not the same as Asbury, like where it's like a dedicated officer for that purpose or a building unto itself. But there's a corps there, and they do have, I think Emily Stothert runs the SASF there.
Yeah.
So, what is SASF?
A Salvation Army Student Fellowship. Oh, okay. It literally began as students just like binding themselves together and be like, hey, we're Salvationists. And so then they were like approved as a campus group. They like, so it's literally just like the chess club.
Yeah.
And
so Hannah said she found out about the Salvation Army because a brass band played at the school. And she was like, oh, that's cool. Like,
awesome.
And then she moved back here and was looking for a job and found on Indeed, I guess, this position here.
Yeah. And I think Asbury's special and unique. And it's like it sits in between 3 territories and then is also supported by the Western Territory. But I mean, we're an hour and a half, less than an hour and a half from Central Territory Corps. And then there are two Southern Territory Corps within a half an hour and an Eastern Territory Corps within a half an hour. Yeah. So it's like kind of as it collides, and it's supported by, it's the only actual ministry output of national headquarters. And so it's like this place where it's like awesome. Like you have kids from the West and from the East and from the South and the Central. So as if there's any students listening to this, it's nice because your dating pool of Salvationists expands, as well as a whole group of like people who share your faith tradition at the university who aren't Salvationists.
At the Harvey's daughter goes there. Mackenzie?
Yep.
Is that her name? Mackenzie?
Yeah, correct. I think she's a senior this year.
I've been to 2 WMIs. You'll be happy to know that Asbury gets a healthy plug every time.
Oh, awesome. Oh, good.
As it should.
Yeah, I mean, the Western Territory invests money in the, like, 1/4 of our budget comes from the Western Territory.
I think we could do more, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And again, I say this to people when I recruit them. It matters more how you go to college than where you go to college. Like, you can go to Asbury, and you'll know people that went to Asbury and missed out on all the good things because they just chose not to get the good things out of them.
Yeah.
And, like, also, you can go to school, like, the Holy Spirit is present and reaching out to you if you're going to the least Christian school in the world. Like, the Holy Spirit wants to disciple you there if you're there. Like, and if you want to be a good student, like seek out good professors, seek out people to help you. It matters more how you go to college and where you go to college. Like that said, at Asbury, there are faculty. Like if you're a Salvationist, you can come to Asbury. I'm looking out for you. Like if I see you,
You'll
like
pay your tuition.
My student, there's some of the students now who hate me for it. Usually when they leave, they genuinely like me for it. But I'm like, if you're struggling, like I'm going to say something to you. Like I'm not going to let you. It doesn't mean that you can't fail. But I'm like, hey, I'm like, what are you doing? Like there's people like looking out for you. And then there's people supporting you and having your back. And also like there's just a lot of financial aid for Salvationists, particularly Salvationist musicians to attend Asbury. There's a lot of support. So it'd be hard pressed to find as affordable private education as you could get at Asbury.
Yeah.
Because generations of people who've benefited from it have given money for you to have that experience there. So get Keith to come back and do another degree, get you on board, and do another bachelor's in music.
Are there any masters there, or is it just
no? There are masters in other programs. Like we have masters in media, we have masters in various things in media and in education. There's one master's in theology, like that's just new and started, but we don't have any music.
Where did you go for undergrad, master's, and doctorate?
So I did my undergrad at Asbury,
Okay.
which I was like one of those kids who was not going to go to Asbury, and then
Did you overlap at all?
No, but I was in Cincinnati doing my master's degree. And so Ron Holtz, who was my predecessor in my job, would bring me back for SASF trips because I was close. And so I wouldn't go to rehearsals, but I'd see John on all of our SASF trips. I'd go on those trips with John. And I think I came back as the music director for the corps in Lexington when you were probably a senior.
Yeah.
And those are all like long stories of how I ended up at Asbury. It's kind of like I think a beautiful story. But then I did my master's in French horn performance at CCM, which is a really excellent school.
What was your undergrad in?
So at Asbury, we offer a Bachelor of Arts in Music.
Okay.
And so I had an emphasis in performance and horn. And then I went to CCM, which is an excellent school, which I in large part got into because of Mark Ridenauer, who's an alumni of Asbury, helped connect me to the horn teacher there, and I took some lessons in advance.
He just retired from the Chicago Symphony?
Yeah. So I played a quintet with him. Shout out to Highbridge Brass. If you want to check out Highbridge Brass and all of your music places. Yeah. Chris Martin, principal trumpet of the New York Philharmonic, plays in it. Hiram Diaz, principal euphonium, the President's Own Band.
You guys still...
Man, we had 2 gigs in New York last year that got canceled because the schools were uncomfortable having someone from the New York Phil because there's a big scandal with the New York Phil.
Oh.
And so literally like 5 days before we were playing concert series at Manhattan School of Music, it got canceled.
That's a bummer.
So hopefully we have something coming up soon. But then we had a bunch of stuff in COVID. Man, yeah, we had a bunch of sweet stuff lined up that COVID canceled.
That's a bummer.
Man, yeah, we're going to be in residence at Brevard.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be sweet, but didn't know dice. All fell through.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but you can check that stuff. We have an album out. But anyway, he connected me with the horn teacher there. And then I got into CCM. And then after that, there's a handful of things I was going to do. And then the Holy Spirit kind of intervened through some people at my corps, some soldiers at my corps, who just realized they just sensed the Holy Spirit lead. And they said, hey, they usually just listen to me. And they brought me over to their house, the Reitmeyers. Shout out to Don and Dave Reitmeyer. Yeah. They brought me over to their house, and they had listened to me, and they knew me from years of being faithful people in my life. And then they brought me over to their house one day, and they just talked to me. And they said, hey, you're making some life decisions. We just feel compelled to share with you how we made some life decisions at a point in our life that seemed odd and unusual, but we clearly saw the Holy Spirit in it. So they told me about how they followed God even when it seemed odd. And then right after that, I got offered a job making $24,000 a year at the Corps in Lexington. Not that long ago. It was like no money.
Well, that's like, $80,000 in Kentucky, right?
No. Anyway, I could barely survive. But I just felt like this is where God wants me to be, and I felt compelled not to prepare for ministry anymore. I wanted to do it. And like the Reitmeyers had spoken into my life, and they didn't tell me what to do, or they didn't even know all the things that were available to me. It's just like they were sensitive to the Holy Spirit leading, and they and you know them. They're not the kind of people that are going to just talk at you.
Yeah.
But it's like I went over to their house for dinner that day, and they just talked to me. And I'm the person that and it was just exactly what God needed. And I'm like, oh, and because of that, I mean, that's like leads into why and how I married my wife. And like, I would have never done the other, I can clearly see God's hand in it. Even at the time, I had much better job opportunities that were offered to me as far as like making money or prominence. And so I was really thankful. And then I got to be involved in that really changed my shaping of thinking about mission for the Corps. Cause working at the Corps is just this is the mission of music in the Army. And we were able to do a lot of, and there's a lot of the people that we worked and brought from outside in have left, but the music director, DMD, and the Kentucky Tennessee division came as a middle schooler into our program there, and he's there because of it. And there's other folks that are around the Salvation Army that came in because of that sort of different vision of Salvation Army music ministry that kind of happened. And then because I was there, I did my PhD in musicology and ethnomusicology at the University of Kentucky while I was working at the Corps. And then that was a real gift. And I didn't realize, like, in God's hand on all those things, I was able to study religious topics there where they kind of have a few folks in their department who aren't Christians, but just like a thing like that they allowed for me to study without saying, well, this is obviously all faith is false. Like, so there's a Jewish professor there who like had studied various things, and there's my dissertation advisor studied music of Appalachia. And just to say as a decency, like, we don't have to discount the faith of these people when we study them. And so there's some places that would be hard to do, but it's just like this little blessing that I got to study music there. Yeah. And it has a really excellent musicology department. So that was really a gift and a blessing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to transition a little bit because, Keith, you brought up something that we did today that was really unique. I don't think it's been done at a camp that I've ever been to.
Retro Day?
Retro. Well, last year we had it, and I had like a disco outfit. Remember that? That was pretty banging.
Sorry, I distracted you. Keep going.
That was cool. But we did a soldier's enrollment.
Oh, yes.
Of Kobe Onitsuga Adams today. He was, I guess the family was worried that when they would do the enrollment, not everyone would be at camp or be around. And so there's so many friends and family of that family, Jenny and Kalani, here that they asked if they could do the soldiers enrollment here. It actually got me thinking, like, I wonder if this is something that we could do on a regular basis, every year. Like, or maybe even start like Salvation Army soldiership classes.
Yeah.
Here at camp. Maybe not like an elective.
Well, I'm sure that could be worked into chapels, at least the doctrines and all that.
Yeah.
Because so many of our kids don't, I don't know how many, but I assume that there are a healthy amount of the kids who are here this week that don't attend the Salvation Army church on a consistent basis.
Even if you didn't do an enrollment. So there might be some challenges. Like, so for Kobe, it's a perfect situation for him. And it was a beautiful experience. But I was thinking about this morning too. It's awesome for some of these kids that aren't super connected to the Army to have a presentation of what it means to be a soldier of the Army. I thought that's really cool. Yeah. So even if you didn't do enrollments all the time, like they may not, and like they're like new at a place, I guess. Anyway, but to celebrate the people who have been enrolled that year at their Corps at camp as a way of like showing these things. Like, that could be a really awesome thing to do. Like, even if you didn't do an enrollment, be like, hey, who has been enrolled as a soldier? Yeah. And then you could do, I was thinking, like, because what a great testimony that was to the kids that were there. Yeah. And Kobe is such a good young man. Yeah. And that he's a junior staff member. But, like, those young, particularly campers that are closer to his age, they look up to him and they admire him. Like, the fruit of the Spirit is evident in Kobe's life. Yeah. And so when you acknowledge that, here's a soldier, these things you see that are good about him. Yeah, he's testifying to them.
Yeah, I just thought that was cool, and like how maybe especially the boys, right? Like the boys who may not go to church or may not want to go to church, or maybe they're just there because whatever.
I'm not against calls to officership.
That was just cool.
But what if you even like tied it in, like after that sort of experience, have a call to soldiership? Yeah. Like, hey, do any of you feel like God's calling you to be a part of taking the gospel and winning the world for Jesus? And like, I believe in officership and I believe that we need good officers, but maybe we start with a call to soldiership. Like, sign up. Let's have a higher view of soldiership. Yeah. Like, hey, that's a first step towards, like, not everyone's going to be an officer, but everyone could be a soldier. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we like to always end our time with some shout outs. Oh, so some shout outs.
This is a shout out to a person, like an individual. It could be a camper, it could be a staff member here, or it could be, someone else from where you're from, or just someone that you recognize that is doing a really good job in terms of whatever it is. But let's keep it to camp. Should we do that?
Yeah, keep it here.
Yeah. So, Keith, do you have anyone that you'd like to give a shout out for?
I wanted to shout out Kobe for his enrollment today. In addition to what people have been saying about him, like during the program year, he's more or less going through the motions. He's only recently started playing trombone, and I think we can both agree his practice ethic has not been the greatest.
Come on, let's give this to a shout out. Come on.
But his
Let's just shout out Kobe.
but all I'm hearing
he should
is
be practicing more.
all I'm hearing
That's
about
what-
is that he's playing his trombone all day. Every time he's on break, he's playing his trombone.
Yeah.
He's out there by the tree playing his trombone.
He Paxton and Dominic were practicing during free time.
He's just playing all the time now. And it's great, and I think it's really rubbed off on a lot of these kids too. So when they see him playing, then they join in too, and maybe they're not playing the same thing, but that that's infectious.
Yeah.
Just seeing that. So I want to shout out Kobe.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a W My vocal thing at 4:45, so I definitely
Whoops.
missed that. Yeah.
Shout out Kobe.
Yeah.
Echo
Did-
that.
Kobe, one of us, Kobe.
I'll let you go last.
All right.
Mine would be Scarlett from. Were you gonna?
I'm
no.
just happy. It just makes me happy.
From White Center. I think she's from White Center. When I asked her, she's just like.
I think Chris said that at lunch.
Man, she's had a rough couple days, in band, and it's not that she's not capable. She just felt that she's quote unquote behind and falling behind in the band, and every time she would make a mistake, she would get really upset, and then she would just stop playing. And so I started working with her. Yesterday? I can't remember. The day before? I honestly can't remember.
So all the days run together.
Yeah, and it was yesterday afternoon that you guys are playing Wade in the Water, and I said, let's not play that. Let's not go through that, because in the morning she just couldn't, and she was just getting more upset. And I said, we need a victory. So we went through Are You Washed? She played it pretty well, and I was hyping her. I was like, do you feel good? Like you should feel good about it. She's like, yeah, whatever. I got through it. And then yesterday we were going through, Wade in the Water and something else, and she was starting to get things. And then this morning I just said, hey, I can't be with you this morning because I can't help you this morning because I got to do some, work for some other teachers to get materials printed. Are you okay to go back into the band? And she reluctantly said, yeah, I think so.
She toughed it out too.
She toughed it out. And I could see her, she missed some things, especially in Wade in the Water, but she kept going, no breakdowns, and at the end, I could see her I missed this part, but I finished it. And so that would be my shout out, just the change in her demeanor over 3 days, really.
Yeah.
And sticking it out. And you're not going to get everything, but you got to the end. There was some success in there, and that's all we could ever ask for.
To circle back to the earlier conversation, maybe this is it for her. Maybe this is the end of her Salvation Army music journey. Yeah. Something good happened in her life here.
Yeah.
She had some victories, and my guess is she comes from a place where maybe those are few and far between.
Yeah.
But also, maybe this is the beginning of her time in her journey. And maybe one day, I'm going to tie this into my shout out, she's coming back as a volunteer, giving of her own time to come here and do this thing that's meaningful in the lives of other people too. And she's joining the mission. So this is a little generic cop-out shout out to all of the volunteers, not paid by the Salvation Army, soldiers who are out here helping support the music instruction and all the things that are happening out at camp. I think there aren't a lot of places that still do that. I think it's really beautiful. So shout out to all the folks. I don't want to forget their names, but Daryl in my band, the Svensons, Jennifer, and there are more, but that I'm forgetting. But I just love that they're out here taking their vacation and teaching kids and continuing the mission. And maybe one day Scarlett is going to be in that crew, helping teach kids about the gospel, pointing them to Jesus through music at the Salvation Army, Camp Arnold.
Yeah. I think my last year in Golden State, we had a really good staff, music faculty. I think this year might be even better. I just feel like this year, there's just something about the group of people that are here. We all seem to be well connected, get along. Not that the staffs don't get along, but feel like we're just really invested in each other's lives. And
Also invested in the kids. Like
Yeah,
nobody's going through the motions.
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
That's great.
And then in turn, like, and I said this to the camp staff, like the kids, it trickles down from the leadership, right? Like if we're enthusiastic and engaged, they can't help but be enthusiastic and engaged because that's what they're seeing. So
And there's like, and the staff is choosing to spend time that they don't have to spend together. It's like people are going to staff snacks and hanging out late.
Yeah.
Even right now, people are playing board games. If my phone's been buzzing with the
while we're
with
recording this
the
podcast.
Messenger. Yeah, they're probably not sad that we're not with them, unfortunately.
Well, that concludes episode 10. Dr. Nathan Miller, thank you for joining us, not only on the podcast, but just being a guest and for this week at Music and Worship Arts Camp, and just investing in not only the kids' lives, but even the lives of the staff here as well. And we wish you best of luck at Asbury, this coming school year, and we hope you enjoy, your vacation after and exploring the Northwest and down to the Redwoods.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna be great.
yeah.
It's been great being here, y'all. It was especially nice to meet Keith too. New friends.
Yeah. Thank
Hopefully we get a high quality bagel in you before you take off.
Yeah,
you.
let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
In the heart of the rain and evergreen trees, the mountains meet the sea, a place of peace. Melodies rising like the morning mist. We gather to learn, create, and exist. Beyond the sound, beyond the stage, we lift our voices, turn the page. A symphony of love, unbound. Here in the PNW, we go beyond the sound. From blast to brush, from strings to song, every hand and heart finds where they belong. In every note and color, every line and beat, we build a world where souls can meet. Beyond the sound, beyond the sound, beyond the stage, we lift our voices, turn the page. A symphony of love, unbound. Here in the PNW, we go beyond the sound. From brass to brush, from strings to song, every hand and heart finds where they belong. In every note and color, every line and beat, we build a world where souls can meet. Beyond the sound, beyond the sound, beyond the stage, we lift our voices, turn